very cattle that would trample a white man to death allow themselves to be banged and bullied and shouted at by children that hardly came up to their noses. So long as the boys keep with the herds, they are safe, for not even the tiger will charge a mob of cattle. But if they straggle to pick flowers or hunt lizards, they are sometimes carried off. Mowgli went through the village street in the dawn, sitting on the back of Rama, the great herd bull, and the slaty blue buffaloes with their long, backward-sweeping horns and savage eyes rose out of their byres, one by one, and followed him. And Mowgli made it very clear to the children with him that he was the master. He beat the buffaloes with a long, polished bamboo, told Kamya, one of the boys, to graze the cattle by themselves, while he went on with the buffaloes, and to be very careful not to stray away from the herd. An Indian grazing ground is all rocks and scrub, and tussocks and little ravines, among which the herds scatter and disappear. The buffaloes generally keep to the pools and muddy places, where they lie wallowing or basking in the warm mud for hours. Mowgli drove them on to the edge of the plain, where the Waingunga River came out of the jungle. Then he dropped from Rama's neck, trotted off to a bamboo clump, and found Grey Brother. "Ah," said Grey Brother, "I have waited here very many days. What is the meaning of this cattle herding work?" "It is an order," said Mowgli. "I am a village herd for a while. What news of Shere Khan?" "He has come back to this country, and has waited here a long time for thee. Now he has gone off again, for the game is scarce, but he means to kill thee." "Very good," said Mowgli. "So long as he is away, do thou or one of the 4 brothers sit on that rock, so that I can see thee as I come out of the village. When he comes back, wait for me in the ravine by the dak tree in the center of the plain. We need not walk into Shere Khan's mouth." Then Mowgli picked out a shady place and lay down and slept while the buffaloes grazed round him. Herding in India is one of the laziest things in the world. The cattle move and crunch and lie down and move on again, and they do not even low. They only grunt, and the buffaloes very seldom say anything but get down into the muddy pools, one after another, and work their way into the mud till only their noses and staring china blue eyes show above the surface. And there they lie like dogs. The sun makes the rocks dance in the heat, and the herd children hear one kite, never any more, whistling almost out of sight overhead, and they know that if they died, or a cow died, that kite would sweep down, and the next kite miles away would see him drop and would follow, and the next, and almost before they were dead, there would be a score of hungry kites come out of nowhere. Then they sleep and wake and sleep again, and weave little baskets of dry grass and put grasshoppers in them, or catch 2 praying mantis and make them fight, or string a necklace of red and black jungle nuts, or watch a lizard basking on a rock, or a snake hunting a frog near the wallows. Then they sing long, long songs, with odd native quavers at the end of them, and the day seems longer than most people's whole lives. And perhaps they make a mud castle with mud figures of men and horses and buffaloes, put reeds into the men's hands, and pretend that they are kings, and the figures are their armies, or that they are gods to be worshipped. Then evening comes, and the children call, and the buffaloes lumber up out of the sticky mud with their noses like gunshots going off one after the other, and they all string across the gray plain back to the twinkling village lights. Day after day, Mowgli would lead the buffaloes out to their wallows, and day after day he would see Grey Brothers back 1.5 miles away across the plain, so he knew that Shere Khan had not come back. And day after day he would lie on the grass, listening to the noises round him, and dreaming of the old days in the jungle. If Shere Khan had made a false step with his lame paw up in the jungles by Onunga, Mowgli would have heard him, in those long, still mornings. At last a day came when he did not see Grey Brother at the signal place, and he laughed and headed the buffaloes for the ravine by the dock tree, which was all covered with golden red flowers. There sat Grey Brother, every bristle on his back lifted. He has hidden for a month, to throw thee off thy guard. He crossed the ranges last night with Tabaqui, hot foot on thy tail, said the wolf, panting. Mowgli frowned. I am not afraid of Shere Khan, but Tabaqui is very cunning. Have no fear, said Grey Brother, licking his lips a little. I met Tabaqui in the dawn. Now he is telling all his wisdom to the kites, but he told me everything before I broke his back. Shere Khan's plan is to wait for thee at the village gate this evening, for thee and for no one else. He is laying up now in the big dry ravine in the Waingunga. He has eaten today, or does he hunt empty? Said Mowgli, for the answer meant life and death to him. He killed at dawn a pig, and he has drunk too. Remember, Shere Khan could never fast, even for the sake of revenge. Oh, fool, fool, what a cub's cub it is, eaten and drunk too, and he thinks that I shall wait till he has slept. Now, where does he lie up? If there were but 10 of us, we might pull him down as he lies. These buffaloes will not charge unless they wind him, and I cannot speak their language. Can we get behind his tracks, so that they may smell it? He swam far down the Waingunga to cut that off, said Grey Brother. Tabaqui told him that, I know. He would never have thought of it alone. Mowgli stood with his finger in his mouth, thinking. The big ravine of the Waingunga. That opens out into the plain not half a mile from here. I can take the herd round through the jungle to the head of the ravine, and then sweep down, but he would slink out at the foot. We must block that end. Grey Brother, canst thou cut the herd in two for me? Not I, perhaps, but I have brought a wise helper. Grey Brother trotted off and dropped into a hole. Then there lifted up a huge grey head that Mowgli knew well, and the hot air was filled with the most desolate cry of all the jungle, the hunting howl of a wolf at midday. Akela, Akela, said Mowgli, clapping his hands. I might have known that thou wouldst not forget me. We have a big work in hand. Cut the herd in two, Akela. Keep the cows and calves together, and the bulls and the plough buffaloes by themselves. The two wolves ran, ladies, chain fashion, in and out of the herd, which snorted and threw up its head, and separated into two clumps in one. The cow buffalo stood with their calves in the center, and glared and pawed, ready if a wolf would only stay still, to charge down and trample the life out of him. And the other, the bulls and the young bull, snorted and stamped, but though they looked more imposing, they were much less dangerous, for they had no calves to protect. No 6 men could have divided the herd so neatly. What orders? Panted Akela. They are trying to join again. Mowgli slipped onto Rama's back. Drive the bulls away to the left, Akela. Grey Brother, when we are gone, hold the cows together and drive them into the foot of the ravine. How far? Said Grey Brother, panting and snapping. Till the sides are higher than Shere Khan can jump, shouted Mowgli. Keep them there till we come down. The bulls swept off, as Akela bade, and Grey Brother stopped in front of the cows. They charged down on him, and he ran just before them to the foot of the ravine, as Akela drove the bulls far to the left. Here's a picture for you, Emily. Well done. Another charge, and they are fairly started. Careful now. Careful, Akela. A snap too much, and the bulls will charge. Hoya, this is wilder work than driving Black Buck. Didst thou think these creatures could move so swiftly? Mowgli called. I have hunted these too in my time, gasped Akela in the dust. Shall I turn them into the jungle? Aye, turn swiftly, turn them. Rama is mad with rage. Oh, if I could only tell him what I need of him today. The bulls were turned, to the right this time, and crashed into the standing thicket. The other herd children, watching with the cattle half a mile away, hurried to the village as fast as their legs could carry them, crying that the buffaloes had gone mad and run away. But Mowgli's plan was simple enough. All he wanted to do was make a big circle uphill, get ahead of the ravine, and then take the bulls down it, and catch Shere Khan between the bulls and the cows. For he knew that after a meal and a full drink, Shere Khan would not be in any condition to fight or to clamber up the sides of the ravine. He was soothing the buffaloes now by voice, and Akela had dropped far to the rear, only whimpering once or twice to hurry the rear guard. It was a long, long circle, for they did not wish to get too near the ravine and give Shere Khan warning. At last Mowgli rounded up the bewildered herd at the head of the ravine on a grassy patch that sloped down to the ravine itself. From that height you could see across the tops of the trees down to the plain below, but what Mowgli looked at was the sides of the ravine, and he saw with a great deal of satisfaction that they ran nearly straight up and down, while the vines and creepers that hung over them would give no foothold to a tiger who wanted to get on. "Let them breathe, Akela," he said, holding up his hand. "They have not winded him yet. Let them breathe. I must tell Shere Khan who comes. We have him in the trap." He put his hands to his mouth and shouted down the ravine. It was almost like shouting down a tunnel, and the echoes jumped from rock to rock. After a long time there came back the drawling, sleepy snarl of a full-fed tiger, just wakened. "Who calls?" said Shere Khan, and a splendid peacock fluttered out of the ravine screeching. "I, Mowgli, cattle thief. It is time to come to the Council Rock. Down, hurry them, down, Akela. Down, Rama, down." The herd paused for an instant at the edge of the slope, but Akela gave them tongue in his full hunting yell, and they pitched over one after the other, just as streamers shot rapids of sand and stones spurting out round them. Once started, there was no chance of stopping, and before they were fairly in the bed of the ravine, Rama winded Shere Khan and bellowed. "Ha, ha!" said Mowgli on his back. "Now thou knowest." And the torrent of black horns, foaming muzzles, and staring eyes whirled down the ravine like boulders in the flood time. The weaker buffaloes being shouldered out of the sides of the ravine, where they tore through the creepers, they knew what the business was before them, the terrible charge of the buffalo herd, against which no tiger can hope to stand. Shere Khan heard the number of their hoofs, picked himself up, and lumbered down the ravine, looking from side to side for some way to escape. But the walls of the ravine were straight, and he had to hold on, heavy with his dinner and his drink, willing to do anything rather than fight. The herd splashed through the pool. He had just left bellowing till the narrow cut rang. Mowgli heard an answering bellow from the foot of the ravine, saw Shere Khan turn. The tiger knew, if the worst came to worst, it was better to meet the bulls than the cows with their calves. Then Rama tripped, stumbled, and went on again over something soft, with the bulls at his heels, crashed full into the other herd, while the weaker buffaloes were lifted clean off their feet by the shock of the meeting. That charge carried both herds out into the plain, goring and stamping and snorting. Mowgli watched his time and slipped off Rama's neck, laying about him right and left with his stick. "Quick, Akela, break them up, scatter them, or they will be fighting one another. Drive them away, Akela. Hi, Rama, hi, 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 my children, softly now, softly, it is all over." Akela and Grey Brother ran to and fro, nipping the buffalo's legs. Though the herd wheeled once to charge up the ravine again, Mowgli managed to turn Rama, and the others followed him to the wallows. Shere Khan needed no more trampling. He was dead, and the kites were coming for him already. "Brother, that was a dog's death," said Mowgli, feeling for the knife he always carried in a sheath round his neck, now that he lived with men, but he would never have shown fight. "His hide will look well on the Council Rock. We must get to work swiftly." The boy trained among men would never have dreamed of skinning a 10-foot tiger alone. But Mowgli knew better than anyone else how an animal's skin is fitted on, and how it can be taken off. But it was hard work, and Mowgli slashed and tore and grunted for an hour, while the wolves lolled out their tongues, and came forward and tugged as he ordered them. Presently a hand fell on his shoulder, and looking up he saw Buldeo with the Tower musket. The children had told the village about the buffalo stampede, and Buldeo went out angrily, only too anxious to correct Mowgli for not taking better care of the herd. The wolves dropped out of sight as soon as they saw the man coming. "What is this folly?" said Buldeo angrily. "To think that thou canst skin a tiger. Where did the buffalo kill him? It is the lame tiger, too, and there is 100 rupees on his head. Well, well, we will overlook thy letting the herd run off, and perhaps I will give thee one of the rupees of the reward when I have taken the skin to Kwanewara." He fumbled with his waistcloth for flint and steel, and stood down to singe Shere Khan's whiskers. Most native hunters always singe a tiger's whiskers to prevent his ghost from hunting them. Well, I'm going to leave it at that, Emily. There's one more picture here. And have a good sleep. I hope you enjoyed your story.